Hello, good evening. Welcome at the Logos Foundation. For this time, we are not in the Logos Tetrahedron, but in the Logos Lodge, where we have a lot of new projects for the near future. It's one commissioned automaton I want to talk to you about, and one that's our own idea. The first one is sort of a bizarre instrument going back on the 60s of last century, and it's an amazing instrument in that it's amazing in its simplicity, yet it has a lot of expressive possibilities. It's an instrument made by Hohner, which we all know as the German manufacturer of accordions and harmonicas and things like that. But this one is a keyboard instrument with a very special mechanism. The keys actually release a little piece of tuned steel spring, and by doing so the spring is free to vibrate at the pitch at which it is tuned. The strange thing is that the sound is activated by releasing a damper. It doesn't beat anything, it just releases a damper over the spring and gives it, that gives it some energy to vibrate freely. It's quite an amazing instrument. So the Alain van Zeveren, which is our collaborator for orchestrations and things like that in the last year, had a request and an idea of whether we could automate it. Now, in itself is pretty straightforward and simple because we have done player pianos, cembalos, etc. before, so we are quite experienced. But here there was an issue in that if you automate it on what would be the most logical thing, on the springs itself by releasing dampers on the tune springs, then the problem is that it becomes musically impossible, as the solenoids have to be in close proximity of the pickups, which are situated under each of the tuned springs. That would give cause to a big inductive jump in the receivers, in the transducers, and that's musically unacceptable because it would go like tack, 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 tack every time you hit a key. So it's not what we want to do. So hence we made it into a forsetzer kind of mechanism that you put on the keys and place it directly. These have already all been drilled to the sides of the white and the black keys, etc. These come like this and will be welded on a structure that can be put on the keyboard. The solenoids for activating it, we have a bunch of them here ready. This is about a good size for here. That little return spring and a limiting rubber here actually for the trajectory. We have to enlarge these holes, but these mount on here, and by applying a velocity pulse you have a certain force, and the hold spur the pulse. Later on we can push the key down and we get expressive possibilities. It's amazing, but such an instrument, in fact, it makes a big difference in terms of sound, the way you do the keys. I can give you a little demonstration. Etc. So that's the project. This kind of instrument will never be, well, never say never, will not really be a part of the robot orchestra at Logos, for the simple reason that it requires to be amplified. However, I have an idea, and maybe it is possible to use a similar kind of mechanism to activate strings purely acoustically. If we would imagine have strong magnets that we put in contact with strings, steel strings of course, and then release the magnet, the question is, wouldn't that be powerful enough to set the strings into motion? This is an experiment that's ongoing, and we will report later on if that is successful to any extent. Okay, that's it for the pianet Horner. That will take, what, I think about 2 months to finish, and we'll report on it when it's ready. As we are doing this one, at the same time we are working on another new instrument. Well, new, we already made a spinet earlier on, but we got a new one here by Sperhake, which is also a candidate for automation. Very similar to what I said about the pianet is this one, a new spinet which we're going to automate in one run. Although it's a little bit different, actually it's easier than the spinet than the pianet. Because on a spinet you don't really have velocity sensitivity, whether I push the key soft or hard, barely makes a difference. So in principle, just with one kind of attack and to continuous constant hold force, it should be possible to automate it completely. We need some work on the pluckers on this one and on the mechanism, and tuning of course, but that's always a problem with string instruments. This one should get ready and may be a replacement for the Spiro spinet that we made earlier on. Difference here as compared to Spiro is that here we will make it also as a processor that you put in top of the keys and place it just like a human would do. With Spiro we tried something else. We tried to push the keys on the back sides up, because these keys have a pivoting point, go like this and that, so you could think that you could do this instead of pushing here. But in Spiro that was not 100% successful, because as it comes out, the pivoting point here, it goes through the key, and if you push it from there, there's a tendency of the whole key to be lifted up instead of just pivoting on the point. So that's a weakness in the design of Spiro, and we had a lot of problems in getting around that idea. So here, back to normal, a processor for the cembalo. Okay, that's it for tonight. We will report later on other things and maybe add some music that's recently been composed for another one of our automats, the Roro organ. Thank you.
Bye.